All right, I think we're live. Welcome again to another live broadcast. Today is Saturday, July the 11th, 2026. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. And if you're live, that's a good start. That's a good start, but I'm so glad that you guys are here. Now, this broadcast is one that I just kind of did on spur of the moment. So probably ain't going to be too many people on this one, but that's okay. It'll be recorded and you'll be able to watch it on your own time. But anyway, so today we're going to look at something in light of this story about this young black man who was found unalived on an island off the coast of Mississippi. There's, of course, as you know, a lot of people have taken to social media to basically to spin their own stories and what they believe happened. And meanwhile, we really don't know. We don't have all the facts. We don't. And people acknowledge that, are acknowledging that. But there's in the same breath, they're saying, yeah, but anyway, I believe this is what happened, but the facts aren't all out there. We don't have the facts. A lot of people are relying on Mississippi's past history, going back during the days of Jim Crow, going back to the days of slavery. And by that alone, we know what happened in this particular case here, right? And so a lot of people jump into those conclusions. Well, it's a very dangerous way to analyze any story if you don't have the facts. Any analysis that is done, you have to start with facts. You can't start with what you think happened. That's not justice. All right. What you believe happened. Remember what we always say on this platform, belief is okay, but belief isn't facts. I can believe that I can do all kinds of stuff, right? But you thought I was going to say, I believe I can fly. Well, let's just go with that. I can believe that I can jump off a building and fly, but that's not the facts. That's not truth. You understand what I'm saying? And everything that we talk about on this platform is really centered on getting to the truth, looking at the facts. It's not just emotion. All right. So that's what we try to do here. Well, there have been a couple of stories that took place that we're going to talk about. And it's another one too. Yeah, it's another one too. But so about three of them we're going to look at that happened some time ago in my lifetime. And I'm sure in many of you guys' lifetime as well. All right. Those of you who are old enough, you're in my age bracket, you remember these stories as well. But the sad thing is that the lessons that should have been learned in those stories, they clearly were not passed down. They weren't passed down to this generation at all. So we're going to take a look at these stories here, and hopefully somebody will take some notes on this and maybe apply it to this particular situation that we have going on right now. Well, we're going to give it about a minute, let people get on, about 1 minute, and then we'll get on. We're going to get started. We're going to jump right in. This broadcast, of course, has been brought to you by Samba Tree. SambaTree.com. That is the place for all your health, natural health and wellness needs. Make sure you check us out at SambaTree.com. Speaking of which, while we're here, I'm on Samba Tree right now. I told you, my wife and I, we always think of what are some things we can come up with, we can develop on our own. And we developed this. It's called, and I'm saying we, but it's really her. It's called the breath brush. It's called the breath brush. Now, we all have breath, and we all have stank breath at times too. But we came up with a solution. A lot of us will tend to, pop in some mints, some of those sugary mints, a lot of those things that have all those weird chemicals that we can't mention, those weird ingredients. Well, we said, no, we want something 100% natural that you can use at any time. And we're calling it the breath brush. You see it on your screen right now. And it actually cleanses on the go. And here it is right here. It's not a mint, it's not a spray, it's a better way. And what are the ingredients that we put in this? Colloidal silver water, calcium carbonate, sea salt, mint, eucalyptus, clove, oregano. And as you can see, no fluoride, no glycerin, no sweeteners, none of that. And all you do is you just take it. You can, brush your tongue. You can brush your teeth real quick on it. And then once you dip it back in, it cleanses itself automatically. And quite a few of y'all who have been buying this, you've been going with the full pack, the 6-pack. And I guess in part because that's where you get the deepest discount. But this is awesome. And a lot of you are taking advantage of that. And we're going to keep on talking about this because this right here, I'm telling you, it can make a difference in a lot of ways, y'all. Okay? As opposed to popping those sugary mints into your mouth, you can do it the natural way, the Samba Tree way. All right? So make sure you check it out. It's over again at sambatree.com. That's the breath brush. Make sure you check it out. And we got a lot of other stuff over there as well. All right. So really appreciate you guys joining us. Let me see if I can get something on the screen, on my screen here locally here. Where is it? There we go. I'll just move this over here so I could see what I'm doing here. For those of you who are in the chat, welcome. So glad that you guys are here as well. Like I said, I hope you're having a great Saturday. Let's get right to it, shall we? Okay, so so as you know, we have this story going on right now. This young man by the name of Nolan Wells, who was found, his lifeless body was found on this island right off the coast of Mississippi. And, sad thing. I mean, when something like that happens. And they are still trying to figure out what the heck happened. Well, social media didn't waste no time because the assumption is that the white boys that he was with were clearly the culprits. These were the individuals that were responsible for his death. But we don't have any facts. The facts is that he was with some white boys, and that's it. But there were a lot of people on the island. This wasn't like a scene where they took him to this island and it was like a layer of sea mist, that was there, and they just kind of kicked him off the boat and all this other stuff. It was none of that at all. I mean, if you see some of the videos, the few videos that are out, there's a lot of people on that island at the time. But like I said, let me stress, the information is very, very limited. We don't know. We don't know. I'm not going to sit up here and try to go through stuff and all of that because I don't know. I wasn't there. He actually had the mother even said that his name is Javon something, who happens to be black. He is, and happens to be his best friend, according to the mother. And TMZ actually did an interview with him, and his best friend is saying, no, a lot of what you're seeing on social media is false. It is not true at all. This is coming from his black best friend is saying this. But, people don't want to hear that because, again, it doesn't match the narrative. And once I saw Al Sharpton involved and Colin Kaepernick, we're going to talk about Kaepernick in a moment. But once I saw them getting involved, I already knew that this was a setup. It's a setup because clearly there's some information that they are aware of, but they have to keep it going. They have to keep the narratives going. And unfortunately, a lot of people aren't too swift enough to learn from the past, but that's part of it. The other part is that you have a lot of elders, I would say we're elders now, who have seen similar stories to this story here, just like this, where we bought in 110% and we said it's the white guys that did it. But then when the story played all the way out, it wasn't them. It was something else. And so I hold accountable those in my generation who did not take the time to learn those lessons and to pass those lessons down to the much younger generation who are now falling for the same stuff. And what really angers me the most is that the older generation are just sitting back and not saying anything at all. Like as if you didn't learn from these stories. So we're going to start off with one of the stories in a moment here. But I want to make sure that you guys go back. If you didn't see the last video that we did, the last video we did where we talked about, this trend of black children who are being murdered, not by white people, but being murdered by either their parents or by caregivers, black caregivers. And we went through a whole list, and all of these stories were very recent stories. These weren't like stories that, took place over a span of years. I'm talking recent, within last couple of months, and most of them were in the last few days, where black children were being murdered by either parents or caregivers. Well, the latest story that I posted, and you can read about it on the community page, where you had 3 generations of black women in the same house who took turns systematically over a short period of time and tortured. I think she was 4 years old or 7 years old. You have to read the post. They took time systematically. The oldest woman in the trio was 70-something years old. So you had the 70-something-year-old woman, her daughter, and then another woman. All 3 of them took time to torture this young lady for how long, who knows. They said they could, when they did the autopsy, they clearly used some like sharp objects. The little girl, she died at the hospital. They said it was a very major infection that took place. But that's just one story. There are many, many, many stories like that. See, again, this platform, what we talk about here, we're dealing with the truth. And a lot of times people don't want to hear the truth because it doesn't match the narratives. And it's funny because I'll have people tell me that, well, you're just doing this for clicks. Well, this ain't really the way to, if you want clicks to talk about this kind of stuff, this ain't really the way to do it. I mean, you can look at my numbers and see it's really not working out for me. If I was doing this for clicks. No, I'm an individual. I want the truth. I want the truth. That's what I want. For some people, it's the truth is very painful. It's something that makes them almost gag because they just can't take it. But we learn from the truth. We grow from the truth. And that's what we're about here. And so we're going to continue to talk about that. We're going to continue to highlight, these children and all of that. And again, are we saying that all black people are involved in this and doing these kind of things? Absolutely not. But these stories are being ignored, and it's about time we stop ignoring these stories and begin to stand on truth and tell the truth. And that's what we're about here. And that's what we're going to do now. So again, shout out to anybody that's in the chat. Really appreciate that you guys are here. Let's get to our first story, shall we? Well, I remember this first story some years ago, and I know many of you who, if you're my age, you remember this as well. Let's go back to, I want to say this was in the early 90s. All right. This took place in New York City. And it was a young girl by the name of Tawana Brawley. And Tawana Brawley made this claim that she was raped by, it was white police officers, and then there was some other white people that she had made the claim that she was raped. Now, I remember this story quite well because, I was in my 20s during that time. And when I tell you this was before the internet really became what it was. And this story, when I tell you, I would say not only did it captivate the nation, I would actually say it captivated at least part of the world. I mean, everybody was talking about this story. And when I tell you, black people were infuriated, and understandably so, based on what Tawana Brawley was claiming happened to her. And basically she was saying that she was raped by, some white police officers and some other white people who proceeded to rip her clothes and to scar her and to wipe feces on her and threw her in a trash can. And so people, and there were actual pictures of these scarrings and stuff that was all on her. And when they would post that on, at that time they were posting in newspapers and all of that. That's all we really had during those days. People went nuts. I mean, they just lost it because they were like, oh my goodness, this is happening right now. And when I tell you the amount of think pieces and arguments and all kind of talk show hosts, who are hosting these great debates over how racism is alive and well and all of this other stuff, and our little girls are in danger and all of that. Folks, what we are seeing today is nothing new. I mean, it goes around and round and round. It always, one of these stories that always comes around. And it all came out. And people were infuriated. Al Sharpton. We're going to talk about him again because Al Sharpton, even then, this was the story that really was the one that was going to set him up to be the spokesperson for Black America. Because there was a competition that was going on at that time between him and Jesse Jackson. And Al Sharpton, because this was in his backyard, Jesse Jackson, his backyard was Chicago, but this took place in New York City. So Al Sharpton was right there. Al Sharpton, who happened to be an FBI informant, but again, we'll talk about that another time. But Al Sharpton jumped on this story and led the marches and led the way and was saying, how dare these white people do this kind of stuff? Right? I'm going to get to a video in a moment. I'll show you. Someone actually put together a documentary. But let's take a look at how this story actually played out, shall we? I might have to skip a little bit in this video, not sure. But kudos to the person who put this video together. Let me see if I can cue it up here. Okay, here we go. This was like all over the place. And I know for some of y'all, like I said, if you're old enough, you remember this story here. Let me get this up here and let's go ahead and play this video. Like I said, I probably will do a little bit of skipping here, but let's just see. All right.
Has left their new home in Virginia, loaded their van for a destination unknown.
No justice. My advisors, and most of all, my people.
The official grand jury report on.
Those of you who have questions to ask Tawana, we will answer all of those when Giuliani answers why he was going to make a deal with Samuel McLeese. Those of you who have questions, we will answer those when Bob Abrams tells you what he's been doing in the state of New York for the last several years as our people have been brutalized and killed. Those of you who have questions, you can even invite Koch to the debate, because as we said this morning,
see, this guy was the crump of that day. These black attorneys that get up, they're still competing to be the voice of Black America. See, what you got to understand is when you see these black attorneys that are like doing these civil rights cases, what they're doing is, and they're competing to be the next Thurgood Marshall. That's really what's happening. But anyway, let me move on here. Like I said, I'm doing some skipping. This was her attorney, Tawana Brawley. But let me move on here. Let me see.
A report on the Brawley case is expected to be made public.
Ruling that Tawana Brawley lied about a vicious racial assault led to an angry demonstration by Brawley supporters last night in New York City. It was led by the Reverend Al Sharpton, who advised Brawley not to cooperate with investigators and who says Brawley will speak out with reporters tomorrow in Chicago. Harold Dow has more.
Tawana Brawley's horrible story that she had been sexually assaulted by 6 white men over 4 days last November became an explosive racial issue. From the beginning, there were doubts about her story. Just last week, Brawley publicly insisted she was telling the truth.
I'm not a liar and I'm not crazy.
But now, a special grand jury in New York has concluded that Tawana lied about the entire story.
The grand jury found no evidence that a crime had been committed against Tawana Brawley, and it is returning no indictments.
The grand jury said there was no evidence that any sexual assault occurred, that Brawley herself was probably responsible for the feces-smeared condition in which she was found, that the racial slurs scrawled on her body were most likely written by Tawana herself. The grand jury's investigation was conducted without the cooperation of Tawana Brawley or her family, on the advice of attorneys C. Vernon Mason, Alton Maddox, and activist Reverend Al Sharpton. They accused authorities of engaging in a racially motivated cover-up and publicly implicated an assistant district attorney in the attack on Tawana without offering any proof. The grand jury report cleared the assistant DA, but it was these charges, among others, that led New York's Attorney General to call for an investigation of the two lawyers.
Their outrageous, irresponsible acts have increased the atmosphere of tension between the races, not only in New York, not only in Dutchess County, but throughout this nation.
Civil rights leaders and experts say the damage may be severe.
Race relations have been dampened and hurt across this nation because of what we've seen.
They have made it less likely that victims of racial bias in the criminal justice system will be heard in the future. They have disserved their cause.
And most agree that may be the real tragedy of the Tawana Brawley story. Harold Dow, CBS News, New York.
The Tawana Brawley case is making headlines again, this time with reported grand jury information that her story of being abducted and sexually attacked was fabricated. The story of the black teenager, which began 10 months ago, has raised questions about racial division in America. Here is some of the background of the Brawley case.
No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! No justice!
It was a drama filled with the horrors of racial brutality. Tawana Brawley, a black teenager from Wappingers Falls, New York, was found last November in a plastic garbage bag. She was smeared with dog feces, covered with racial slurs. Brawley said she'd been abducted and raped by 6 white men, one supposedly a police officer.
Told me to shut up.
He told you to shut up?
He was a cop.
He was a police officer?
Showed me a bag.
She had KKK written across her chest and nigger across her stomach.
The story shocked the people in this sleepy upstate town, yet the racial tensions of nearby New York City made it all seem plausible. Fearing a return to the bad old days, prominent blacks from around the country rallied to her support.
Let Miss Brawley represent an example of what we're not going to stand for as parents, as Americans, and as human beings.
For many blacks, Tawana Brawley became a symbol of still simmering racial hatred. Led by Reverend Al Sharpton, her lawyers, Alton Maddox and C. Vernon Mason, charged police and even the governor with a cover-up in the investigation. They said Brawley couldn't get justice in a system insensitive to blacks. They told Tawana and her family not to talk to anyone.
If Tawana Brawley does not speak, if her mother, her stepfather do not speak, you probably will never know what really happened, and that's a terrible thing.
Her lawyers, according to former aides, decided at the beginning to pursue the case politically rather than legally. They brought the story of Tawana Brawley to the court of public opinion to be tried in the media. Ignoring a subpoena and defying contempt charges, Tawana's mother took refuge in a New York City church. The political drama disintegrated into a circus.
The fact that you've got 500 black people in this room and every one of us got a different complexion means that white rape is a reality in the United States.
Almost from the moment Tawana was found, there had been questions about her supposed 4-day ordeal, allegations that she was actually at a series of wild parties, perhaps using drugs, maybe with an old boyfriend. Her lawyers tried to silence her accusers, charging them with racism.
I wonder would anyone ask, had it really happened, if she were not black?
Now, according to the New York Times, the grand jury has concluded Tawana and her backers were making up the story all along. Tawana and her family have since left the state, leaving behind the turmoil of this terrible story, leaving the jury of public opinion to wonder who, in fact, was the victim.
Y'all, and there's a lot more. If you're not familiar with that story, because I know we got some younger people in the house that may not be familiar with that, I would advise you, to go look up, when I say documentary, someone just took a bunch of, thankfully, we got people out there that love to document things. And so what they did was they put together a bunch of news clips, as you just saw, put them all together and just show you how this thing actually played out. And as you could see, she was lying. She made it up. I can remember, just how, it literally, the atmosphere in America at that time, it was really on the edge because of this story. White people were looking at black people weird and then vice versa and all of that. But then the facts came in. Then the truth came in. And then what was the reaction? As someone who lived during that time, let me tell you what the reaction was of black Americans. Okay? I'm black. I'm a black American. So I could tell you, and I lived during that time, so I could tell you what the reaction was. The reaction was silence. Because once the truth came out, immediately people just started, you've seen the meme of Homer Simpson when he's backing up into the bush, right? That's what happened. It went from taking all in the street and everything that you see happening today. You saw all of that, same reactions. You saw that happening then. But then when the truth came out, once the investigations were done, all of a sudden now people just went silent. No accountability for anything. No apologies, nothing. And so in my mind, I'm saying, looking back at this now, I'm saying the least we could have did, because when you want to talk about a grand embarrassment, that story was a grand embarrassment, or it should have been. The least we could have did was say, you know what? Let's remember this story. Let's remember how we overreacted before the facts came out. Let's remember that. And let's pass it down to our children and say, hey, listen, before, when this, I know what it looks like, but before we open our mouths, let's wait till the facts come in. This story has not come up since. It's an afterthought. And I know I got some people out here probably mad that I'm bringing it up. Anyway, let's move on. And there's a lot of similar stories out here like this. We're just highlighting just, a couple of them just to, keep it nice and to the point or whatever, right? Okay, so there was another story that took place, and I'm sure that many of you, again, of my age bracket, I'm sure you remember this story as well. Now, this took place on the campus of Duke University. And basically, I'll just set it up for you. Duke University was, for those of you familiar, is known, it's North Carolina, the pride of North Carolina, one of the schools, you got UNC and all that. And Duke is one of those other ones that's like really like up there, right? And so they had a lacrosse team. And the lacrosse team, well, lacrosse is pretty much a sport that's primarily played by white men, white boys, right? You got black guys that play it, but it's pretty much a sport that you'll find a lot of white, young men playing that sport. Well, anyway, they had their own, frat house, or however you want to call it, team house, and they invited some dancers. All right. And, and one of those dancers was a woman, young black woman by the name of Crystal Magnum. She was a black woman. And she was invited to go, to dance for these young men. Well, some things transpired that evening. And, that she was alleging that took place. She was alleging that she was gang, and that they held her down, all of that stuff, right? And when I tell you the firestorm that took place, what we just talked about in that last story, that was pretty, like I said, I know some of y'all who are old enough, you remember how that ripped this country apart. Literally. This story here, again, I would encourage you if you're not familiar with this story, to go back and to go and look up the Duke lacrosse team situation. I promise you, once you go through all of that, again, as someone who lived through that, it was a hot mess. I mean, it was so bad. Basically, I'm jumping ahead here. The attorney that was, I believe, that was pressing charges against the Duke lacrosse team, he's out of practice. I mean, that's how screwed up this thing was. But anyway, same thing, tearful confessions, talking about how they did this to her and they did that to her. And the nation, just all of the nation turned against this team because they were white boys. And of course, because she just made the claim that, this took place, then we can assume that, this took place. It happened. No judge, no jury, nothing at all. It was all tried in the press. And I remember how it was, they were splashing these guys' faces all in the press. They were calling them all kinds of things and all that. And it got so bad, even Duke University, all the tenured professors got together and they purchased a page out of whatever the state newspaper was, or was it the school newspaper, one of the two. They did a whole page condemning the team by name, calling them rapists. The school did this. Again, this was before they didn't even go through a whole trial. It didn't even come out yet. Nothing had come out yet. The facts weren't all in yet. And people all over in the media were saying, yeah, this is how black women are treated in America and all this. And this is reminiscent of how they used to treat black women in slavery and all of that. When I tell you the stuff, like I said, the same things we hear today, it's nothing new. It's nothing new. They were saying the same things back then. All the accusations that was coming out, these white boys did it, and they were acting on their privilege, and they thought they can get away with it. See, this is why we got to stay on the necks of white men, because white men think they can do whatever they want to black women, and we're not going to take it anymore. And then, of course, the woke white people, they had to stand up, and say that we're going to, as a white person, I'm not going to tolerate this either. I remember all of that. Then the truth came out. Well, with that, let's go to this video. And this is Crystal Magnum herself. I'll let her tell it. This is actually a very short video. And let's have her tell it. This is her when she was young, but keep watching.
No one deserves to be sexually assaulted.
Nearly 20 years after Crystal Mangum falsely accused 3 Duke lacrosse players of raping her at a party, the former exotic dancer is now admitting publicly for the first time that she fabricated the story.
I testified falsely against them by saying that they raped me when they didn't, and that was wrong.
Mangum, now 46, making that admission on the Let's Talk with Kat podcast from a North Carolina prison where she is serving time for fatally stabbing her boyfriend in 2011.
I betrayed the trust of a lot of other people who believed in me.
In 2006, Mangum told police she was sexually assaulted by 3 men, Colin Finnerty, Reed Seligman, and David Evans, in a bathroom at a Duke lacrosse team party where she had been hired to perform. The blockbuster allegations igniting a national firestorm about race, class, and privilege on college campuses.
I think they might get away with it just because they have money.
Every member of the Duke University lacrosse team is innocent. You have all been told some fantastic lies.
The charges were ultimately dropped after no DNA, witness, or other evidence was found to back up Mangum's story. The players reached an undisclosed settlement with Duke University in 2007.
I hope that they can forgive me.
Colin Finnerty telling NBC News, I hope this time in jail makes her think about what the consequences are for her actions. Liz Kreutz, NBC News.
Just think about the impact of that experience on those boys, and now to hear from her now, it's been life-changing for all of them.
Absolutely. Hard to believe it's been so long. Yeah. 2006.
Hey.
Yep. I remember it. Same thing. So far we've covered two stories here where these were national stories where you had celebrities, you had politicians, you had leaders all joining in and coming to this conclusion without any of the facts, saying that these white boys actually did it. But then when the truth came out, instead of saying, you know what, we screwed up, we didn't look at the facts, we were just running with our emotions. When the truth came out, the people at that time who are now today's elders did not take those lessons and pass it down to the people that we are seeing today, this generation of individuals who are now falling in the same cycle and running to conclusions without any facts. That's the problem here. And so, and when you try to bring this up, of course, a lot of people get offended at that. How dare you bring that up, Dwayne? It ain't our fault. It ain't our fault. It ain't our problem. Oh, yes, it is. It is, because it shows that we failed at teaching a very valuable lesson of the importance of standing on truth, standing on the facts, waiting until all the facts come in. And see, now that we live in this, social media age, well, people definitely ain't going to wait at all for the facts to come in. Everybody wants their FaceTime and get on and say what they think and all of this other stuff. And just, if you take the time and just scroll through, just like Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, there are so many people out here that are saying all kinds of things. They're acting like they went to school with this dude. Well, I heard this and that. And there was this video rolling around of someone's taking a pan of the island, if you will, and you got all of these boulders and stuff out there. And in the faint distance, you can kind of make out that someone's arguing. But nobody knows who was arguing. But everybody's saying the white boy, out of all of these people have concluded, oh, it must have been the white boys arguing with this young man. How are you going to come to that conclusion when even the best friend said, I don't know who that was. He said there was a lot going on that day. He said that, and his name is Javon. I don't know what his last name. Again, he's black. Look him up. He literally said out of his own mouth. One of the things he said too, let me pull it up here. Let me pull something up here. Nolan, again, the mother said this young man, Javon, you can look him up on your own. He said that this is his best friend. He went on TMZ himself and said, I actually was going to be on the boat with Nolan as well. But it was too late. And he said, I ended up catching another boat. He said, but there was a lot of stuff going on. It was nothing racial. Nobody was doing any of that stuff. It was none of that going on there. And I said, oh, he better go into hiding because they're going to rip him up. But but again, that's just a little bit of it. We don't even have the full story yet. But I'm just telling you, there are trickles of things that are already coming out now that's like, it might not be what a lot of people are hoping. And I emphasize the word hoping. Because I'm telling you right now, if anything else comes out that doesn't align up with this, you're going to see how massively the online black community is going to drop this story as if it never happened. And so anyway, let's move on. You have Ben Crump. He is trumpeting the fact, and let me put this on the screen here, that Colin, however you say it, Kaepernick, has chipped in to help raise up money for the, for the independent autopsy. And black folks all over social media are like, yes. See, this is what I'm talking about. See, this is what it looks like when we stand up together. And man, Kaepernick, he is always on point doing this. He always steps up to the plate and helps us get to the truth. And again, we're back to that, what I call social amnesia. Because one thing I could tell you right now, I do not suffer from is Amnesia. My memory is pretty good. And I'm saying this because Kaepernick funded another autopsy. Right here. You remember Trey Reed? This is the young black man who they found hanging from a tree. I believe this was on a college campus down in, I want to say, Mississippi. Well, let's read the article here. Yeah, in Mississippi. 3 months ago, former NFL player Colin Kaepernick announced that he would fund a second independent autopsy of Trey Reed. This sounds familiar, doesn't it? A black student at Delta State University who was found hanging from a tree on the college campus. Even after his death was ruled a suicide. Now, mind you, let me stop there. Because a lot of people, I'm hearing a lot of mouths out here saying, I don't trust the Jackson, Mississippi, police. I don't trust them. They're racist. See, some of y'all are so dumb and so stupid, and I'm sorry, I have to say this because I have to call you out. But some of y'all are so dumb and stupid, you actually think that the movie that you saw, Mississippi Burning, some years ago, you think that's how Jackson, Mississippi is. Well, let me help you out. Do a search for Jackson, Mississippi, the chief of police. It's actually a black woman who's married to a black man. Yeah. So does that line up with your narrative? Of course it doesn't, but nobody brings that up. Yeah, there are a lot of people that are black in the Jackson, Mississippi police department. Okay, so we're far from the whole Jim Crow, whatever it is that you got playing in your mind. But you notice the people never bring that up. They will never bring that up. But anyway, with this story with Trey Reed, it was the same thing. You had the local police, state police, and even national, the feds got involved. They all did their investigation. And with their investigation, all of them publicly released them. And they all concluded that Trey Reed, unfortunately, ended his own life. All of them did that, except one autopsy. Let's get to it. Even after his death was ruled a suicide, Reed's family requested that a second autopsy be performed. This due in part to initial online rumors that Reed had suffered broken bones before his death. News of a second autopsy would come mid-September, around a week after Reed's death. Despite online claims to the contrary, the results of that autopsy have still not been released. And folks, they still haven't released it. At the beginning of December, WLBT News emailed the Know Your Rights Camp, the organization founded and funded by Kaepernick, which pledged to fund the independent autopsy. WLBT asked for the results of the second autopsy. We never received a response. WLBT News also emailed the Office of Civil Rights Attorney Ben Crump, who was retained by the family of Trey Reed and who vowed to uncover the truth about what happened. His office never responded. Folks, this is social amnesia. Isn't it something that we got the same players involved in this case here, and people are all pumped up and excited and running with it? But something that just happened last year, it wasn't even a full year ago, with the same players. And it's as if people don't even remember it. WLBT News had repeatedly called the office of Dr. Matthias Okoye, who performed the second autopsy of Trey Reed. Okoye's office never responded. So none of these folks responded. Kaepernick, He never responded. Crump never responded. Okoye never responded. But yet they will get out and on any and all microphones and accuse the state of doing a cover-up. We just talked about what took place in, in the Tawana Brawley case, where they were accusing the state of New York for covering up the truth about what happened to Tawana Brawley. But it came out that it was Al Sharpton and his attorney and the attorney for Tawana Brawley and other advisors that were telling Tawana Brawley to not cooperate with the police. Don't tell them anything. Well, if you want full exposure of the truth, you're going to tell them everything so that we can get to the bottom of it. And what I believe is happening now, this is just, again, we're getting into the land of belief now, is that the same parents in this particular case that we're talking about today of this young man, Nolan Wells, I believe that because now you got Al Sharpton involved again. You also got Colin Kaepernick involved again. You got Ben Crump involved again. These same three individuals have a history of advising the family of the victim. Shh, don't say anything. We know what really happened, but shh, keep it on the low. This is public information, y'all. This is public information. If someone has a track record of doing that, why would I trust them? Why would I put my trust in anything that they're going to say? They got a track record. The moment that y'all saw Al Sharpton involved in this story, that should have sent all kinds of red flags to you saying, okay, here we go again. Out for crying out loud, Al Sharpton was an FBI informant. But you got Negroes today, in my age, they'll still believe him. Because all he got to do is say some words and talk about how the white man is this or that or whatever, and people will just fall in line with it. I don't understand. How can you look at somebody with a losing track record and still believe them? I don't get it. I just honestly and truly don't get it. But people are falling for it. But anyway, let's get back to this story here. Right here, let's pull it back up. Anyway, let's go here. Let's see. Shortly after the death of Reed, the Bolivar County coroner, Randolph Seals, stated that Reed was not suffering any lacerations, contusions, compound fractures, broken bones, or injuries consistent with assault. Seals also said that there was no evidence to suggest that Reed had been physically attacked before his death. And then they go on and they give all the details. So Trey Reed, once the truth start coming out, what did the collective online black community do once again? They moonwalk back into the bushes. Folks, listen, what I'm trying to tell you is this. You know, we always tell people here, above all else, protect your peace. Protect your peace. Above all else, protect your peace. And a lot of this stuff that you see online, even though it's very concerning, of course, we want the story of Nolan, you know, to get, you know, we want to get to the bottom of it. We want to know the truth. We want to know what really happened. And that's, we need to do that, right? I'm not against that at all. But see, my question to you is always this. Why is there so much high interest in a story like this when I just showed you just yesterday and the day before that, you got a whole string of black children who are being murdered by their parents in their own homes, but nobody gives a damn about that. Nobody says anything about that. There's no care. There's no concern or anything like that at all. But this story here, we got to stay on the white people's neck. I just got a notification on I'm on that. I'm subscribed to the YouTube channel Black Girl on Lost, and she's covering a story where a black man was arrested 75 times. I've talked about this, repeat offenders. and how they are helping to dismantle a lot of these black neighborhoods, because they get re-released into these black neighborhoods and they commit more crimes. They get arrested and then they get put right back out in the street, so forth and so on, keep killing people, and they just get right back out in the streets over and over again, and nobody cares. But yet this story right here, we got to bring full justice to these white boys. We don't have any facts, but we just know that they're white and we know that they're guilty. So what I'm saying is, I hope you guys got something out of this. Just a quick jaunt through history, that this precedent has already been reached before many times. And what social media, the individuals on social media, what they want you to do, and this system in general, they want you to lead everything, lead your rationale, your thinking on your emotions first. And while your prefrontal cortex, make sure you turn it off on the way out. You know, you don't do that. I don't care what story it is. I don't care what the event is. I don't care what the situation is. You always take the mature route and say, you know what? My mouth is closed. Let me wait until the facts come in. And that's it. And I understand with social media now, it's very hard to do that. But listen, and I'm appealing particularly to those of my age bracket and a little bit older. There's still time for us to right this wrong of not teaching this generation that valuable lesson. You can still be that voice out there and saying, no, we screwed up with that. No, this generation, if anything, we want you to do is to learn from our mistake and wait until all the facts come in. Because what ends up happening is you create a lot of mess, and then what ends up happening, you back off, and then the mess is just still there, and it's just festering, and nobody's there that wants to stick around and clean it up. We can't do that. We have to be mature adults when we're hearing these kind of stories here, and wait till all the facts come in. But it's like I said again, it's not just this story. There's many events. I'm talking about even in your own personal life. Don't allow these situations. Wait till the facts come in. Wait until you get all the information before you make these rash decisions. You understand what I'm saying? That's just a basic lesson in life that I would like to, hopefully somebody learns from that, and we can just go on and live a full life, free of the drama, because there's a lot of people that just love the drama. Anyway, let me take a look at the comments here in the chat real quick, and then I'm just going to go out of here. Todd Wilson said, I do remember the lacrosse debacle. CTO Drung says, so those, who was it? Let me see what he said here. He said, and as such, I'm for whomever and whatever benefits humanity as a whole. Let's see who else. Marisa said, so does Colin Kaepernick just sit at his house with cash? I'm just saying, I don't know, sis. He only shows up with this, and all of a sudden he got Cash App in hand. I don't get it. I don't get it. But, you know, the money's going to be raised, the whole nine. And I really, really, really do hope, like I said, again, I just, you know, that the truth, when it comes out, it needs to come all the way out. It needs to come all the way out. And people need to grow up. And when it does come out, and if it doesn't align with the narrative, people need to be big enough and adult enough and say, you know what, we screwed up, we were wrong. And that's it. Because when you do that, that sets a great precedent for the future generations, because it shows that, okay, we do value accountability. We do value taking responsibility. You know what I'm saying? So that's really it, dog. That's it. I was reminded of those stories, and I said, you know what? We should make a video off of that, and that's exactly what we're doing. So that's it. That's all I have for you guys. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Join in the comments below. You know, always keep it up on the up and up. Be respectful and all of that. We can have a wonderful conversation. But whatever energy you bring, if you don't, we'll bring it back in spades. Okay, so let's have a wonderful conversation down in the comment section. And I appreciate each and every one of you guys, as always, that show up for these lives here. I really appreciate every last one of you guys. Thank you so much as always. You guys take care and enjoy the rest of your day, evening, weekend, or whenever it is that you're watching. Take care.